Okay, let's hop into insights. You talk about moving from data to intelligence, and you also have talked about smart data versus, not just big data. Explain the insights pillar of your science of marketing pillars.
Yeah, so on the marketing side today, we are lucky because we have more and more data. We have data for everything. There is no lack of metrics. On one end, we're lucky. On the other end, it's overwhelming. And why? Because there's too much data. And you can spend your day just looking at spreadsheets. It happens to everybody. And as far as I know, you don't lead a business by just looking at spreadsheets 12 hours a day. So here, the idea is first, based on your priorities and everything. I come from the science of marketing. It's to be able to understand how you're going to measure success early on. And maybe the first time you do it, you don't have the right number, but I invite everybody to try it. And, I'm like, pick a number. And maybe the first quarter is to test your capacity to deliver up to that number. But what you want as a success is to be in control and understand the dynamic of how you're going to get there. And when you're able to do that the first time, then you're going to be able to build on it and become better. But I believe for whatever you do in general, there is a measure of success that you can apply, and you should apply that measure of success, learn from it. My framework all the time is I have a high KPI and then I have 3 metrics supporting that KPI. I know I'm staying conceptual, but meaning there are so many dimensions you could apply. Mm-hmm. And when you have it under control and when this is working and you're able to predict plus minus 10% what you're doing, it's to move to the next level and being able to leverage, meaning machine learning, data science, depending on the team you have. If you have data scientists working for you, to build a model with a big dream, which is to predict capacity of people to buy or to predict something. Most of the time, it's predict capacity of a customer to buy a product.
Yeah, excellent. And when someone has very little data or limited data, what's the mindset that they should have as they're getting started doing that?
Yeah, so I think they are. So I don't. So first, most of the time, people have data. And why? Because you have historical data. And so the feedback everybody's going to share is like, oh yeah, but they suck. I'm like, yeah, okay. But it's still a data set. And so every time I build something, I'm going to go like hardcore dimension here. You're like, okay, how many SQL sales qualified leads should I deliver next quarter? And I invite people, I'm like, look back. And they're like, it sucks. I'm like, yeah, I got that part. Look back. It doesn't matter. And try to make a guess about how many you have. And then try to define a target for yourself initially on next quarter and how many you want to deliver. And you will learn. So that's one. Because looking at historical data, you always have something to learn. There is no perfect data, and no marketer will tell you like you have the best data in the world and so on. So you just have to put your ego aside and just process the past data to try to understand what's going on. Or you can look at benchmark, of course. There is no lack of website with benchmark data. I think at the core, you should look at historical data. And my guiding principle here is you just want to become better quarter over quarter, right? If your number was 50, you want it to become 60, like something higher, and at least 10%. That's how I look at it. And you need to take into consideration a cycle that it will take you like 3 to 6 months, which is okay, to understand it and to be able to grow it. Success all the time is being in control. Again, something I learned in many companies is you can miss something. Like the worst is to miss and not being in control and not understanding the why. If you're in control, it's a great starting point for you to become better at what you do.
Nice. So 2 more pieces I want to talk about within insights. One is, I don't know if people know this about you. You have 6 US patents. I mean, that's ridiculous. So one of those patents comes from the use of data insights and moving that against an account-based marketing model. You've gone from data to intelligence and applied that to how can I impact revenue as much as possible. Can you talk a little bit about your account-based marketing thought process, structure, the mindset?
Yeah. So on ABM, you want me to talk about the patent, like what we did? How did we get there? Yeah. Okay. So what we do, I go back to the talent bucket, but we ensure that we spend 20% of our time experimenting, always. And why is because we live in a world where things are changing fast. And whatever you did and whatever failed 6 months ago doesn't mean it's going to fail today. So we build a culture of empowerment where you can succeed or fail. And actually, if you fail, it's okay, as long as you know why. That's we go back to, you need to know why you need to be in control. And so by doing that, there are some experiments that are going to fail and, and die, and some other that are going to be highly successful. And here we were working with a team on the sales ops side, data science side, and business insight to say, okay, we'd love to predict propensity of an account to buy. And what we did initially, we started on a Friday, putting on a whiteboard is like, how would we score an account? And today, everybody in sales and marketing uses a framework called Search Decision, Demand Waterfall. And that Demand Waterfall framework has a little bit of an issue is there's not, like you move from a contact dimension to an account dimension. So more or less, it does not really connect because in a perfect world, you want to do a funnel, which is a full account funnel from marketing qualified accounts. That was a new concept at that time, up to your SQL and close one business. So looking at this, we're like, okay, we need to define something called marketing qualified account. I think we called it AIS, account interest score. And initially the idea was to say, okay, let's look at all the contacts associated to the account, their level of engagement, and do kind of a weighted NPS average on how the account score should be. I'm geeking out a little bit, but as you can see, it started more with a brainstorming with somebody on my team called Sad and saying, hey, how should we think about that? And then explaining the why as a vision, partnering with sales operation, partnering with the data science team and some other team. We assembled a team saying, okay, this looks pretty cool. Let's put some science behind it. And what we did is what started an experiment ended up being a success because it was one of the dimension core to how we will plan and do account allocation or account follow-up moving forward at LinkedIn. And with all the support of the company, we went through the patent process. And after, I'm not sure, it also went on the product side where people looked at it and maybe integrated it in their algorithm. I'm not sure about that. I don't know what they did with it, but it was a great. It started as an experiment on a Friday afternoon discussion, culture of, hey, let's push it to the next level, see if it works. Partnering with people, collaboration, and being able to put it together.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. The combination of collaboration, cross-stakeholder management, cross-stakeholder partnerships, and projects that you had to work on in order to get that done, plus just the vision that you had in order to get that done, it was really impressive. So one more thing I want to talk about around data. Let's pull it up a level, and we're going to talk about stakeholder relationships for a minute. You talk about measuring from a marketing perspective and aligning with stakeholders within the business. Most specifically, you've talked about aligning with finance and aligning with sales. Can you talk a little bit about the process you go through taking data, taking information, and at the same time going to align with the way that you believe and they believe marketing should be measured within the company?
Yeah. So I was on another panel recently. We talked about the same. So what's happening? Because there is an issue today. The issue today is sometimes the issue is misalignment. Looks like a simple issue, but it's a pretty complex one. And what is the issue in my point of view is sales as a point of view on what an SQL, if you take SQL as a measure of success should be, marketing as a point of view, and people don't align. And so the way I've done it is I come with a set of like 2 or 3 definitions. Okay. And I go and talk to finance, to sales. And I'm like, hey, this is the 3 ways we can do it. And really my positioning is pick one. I don't care. Because the definition are not like, it's more in the details. It's not really in the definition itself. It's like in the details and having an open discussion and explaining again the why, saying, hey, this is option A and this is what's going to happen. This is option B. This is option C. What do you feel good about? And often actually in those discussions, people are like, oh, thank you. I appreciate first to have a discussion. I appreciate the explanation of all of it. And quite often, actually, people come back saying, okay, you pick. I understand where you come from. I understand what you're trying to achieve. And let's agree on it. And so quite often, actually, people come back and say, you pick. If they decide, I'm fine with it. But what we're going to do is we're going to spend the amount of time needed to get to that agreement. Like, it's not a loosey-goosey, such as like, hey, we had a discussion. Oh, I'm running out. I need to jump to a call. I'm leaving. I'm like, yeah, we're going to meet after again. Like, just to be clear, I wanted to hear you say it. I agree with, and you're going to say the definition, right. And then we'll be done, right? And really, and it's not that see you later. So we get to that, and then what we're going to do on top of it is, I think SDR, sales development, depending representative team, or BDR, depending on team, everybody has different names, but you want to co-own, and this is what I was doing at LinkedIn. This is what I was doing at Twilio. This is what my team is doing at HackerRank. that number was that team and be gold on the same number. Okay. And this is just going to move from definition to execution where, and being able to do it on the operational side is there is no disconnect. People present together. They have the same view on the number and so on and so on. And you would see it goes back to that alignment and collaboration. Again, I know it's like just the same theme. And again, agreeing in your disagreement if you're not on the same page, to be able to push it and to move forward. Like, I don't think if you work in an organization, I was sharing it where sales and marketing are not like partnering together at every single stage, not only at each level where you have the CMO and the CRO like smiling and saying, yeah, of course, we love each other, but up to the board level and down to the lower level in the organization. It needs to be across the board. It doesn't have to be exec only, or this would not work. And I had something else I wanted to add. And that level, yeah, once I have a good anecdote. I have somebody called Dan in one of the company I worked at. It was LinkedIn. And once I was struggling with I was not aligned with my SDR counterpart. And he looked at me and I'm like, hey, I'm struggling here. It wasn't a big deal, right? But we were doing planning for the year and we were just not moving forward. And in one sentence, he fixed it. He's like, hey, Nicolas, if you guys are not able to align, it means that we may have hired the wrong people. And in my head, I froze and I'm like, yeah, we'll be aligned by end of the week. And we were not struggling in our relationship. Like, it was not like it was a great relationship, but it was just in the detail of the planning. It's like, yeah, we did not hire the right people. And in my mind, it was like 10 years ago, I think. And I'm like, yeah, got it.
Well, those details matter. And that Dan is a very smart Dan.